COVID-19. This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
All right, thank you. If you can call the roll.
Commissioner Arnrich,
No, you're on mute.
Your sound's not coming through, Noel.
I got you. I can see your lips moving. But
Just say we.
Commissioner Fidelli,
Here?
Yes, yes.
we can hear you now. Thank you both.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Nowak,
Here.
Vice Chair Sauce,
Here.
Chair Thorpe.
Here.
All members are present.
All right, thank you. Item 2, public comment. Are there any general public comments?
We've not received any public comment, written or verbal.
All right, thank you. Item 3, consent calendar. Are there any items that we want to pull to discuss? If not, are there any public comments?
We have not received any public comment.
All right.
I had a, just a clarification question on one, if I could. On H. Should I ask that question now?
Yes.
Yes. I was just wondering, just to clarify that we in fact initiated this project and that Crimson did not initiate it. We did, but they would like to carry out the process because they're more familiar with the types of piping that they do have. Is that correct? So the money, we're giving the money and it's our project.
Yeah, yes, Commissioner Fidelli, that's correct. Yeah, we initiated the project. This is for the 684 interchange for phase 1-2A. So we initiated the project. We sent them basically a letter of conflict to them, and then they, based on the oil line and the special services associated with that, they wanted to perform the services basically by themselves and with outside services that they can control.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I'd move the consent calendar, item number 3.
Second.
All right, there's a motion by Commissioner Arnott, seconded by Commissioner Sauce. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Fidelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sauce,
Yes.
Chair Thorpe.
Aye,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. All right, item 4A, legislative update.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning. Okay.
Good morning, Chair Thorpe and Commissioners. Today, we have both our federal and our state advocates joining us. There are a lot of interesting actions occurring at both levels. So we'll start this agenda item with our federal advocate, Gus Maples of Ty Ginsburg and Associates, who will share with us what's going on in Washington, D.C.
Hi, good morning, everyone. As Luna said, we've got a busy month coming up here in Washington, D.C. You're probably all aware that the end of the federal fiscal year will be September 30th. We currently have no FY fiscal year 24 appropriations bill signed into law yet, which for better or worse has become regular order, so to speak, around here. The Senate will be calling up a minibus. They're called a 3-bill package of military construction and veterans affairs, agriculture, and expected to be the transportation HUD bill as a minibus appropriations bill for consideration next week. We will be monitoring that, presuming that it passes. Of course, the Congress will have to consider a broader extension of federal funding over the next probably 2-month period or so as they negotiate all the differences across all federal programs and agencies to fund for the full fiscal year 2024. That will have to be done before September 30th to prevent a government shutdown. I don't think it's entirely out of the realm of possibility that there could be a shutdown, just given that it's a 0% chance and how the Congress has been working on some stuff this year. But I don't think it would last very long. I at least have hopes for that. And I'm also hopeful that they just agree to an extension without too much fanfare, although there could be a little bit of fireworks there. All this to say that, of course, the Congress does have to consider differences in the House and Senate appropriations packages. The House has marked up a roughly 25% cut across the board for the transportation and HUD programs under the current fiscal year levels. That basically removes any increases in programs from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. The Senate more or less has held harmless a lot of current year funding as part of that agreement that Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Biden agreed to earlier this summer to essentially freeze federal spending for the upcoming year. So things could get a little hairy here going into the end of the month, but there will be some consideration of regular appropriations bills, including transportation, likely next week in the Senate. And then, of course, an actual extension and all government funding, hopefully by the end of the month through the rest of the fall. One other noteworthy here in DC is that the Senate has still not resolved all of its issues on pilot training hours, as well as long haul slots out of Reagan National Airport here near Washington, DC. Those are two major sticking points in the Federal Aviation Administration bill, authorization bill. So we're also looking at a potential extension over current programming there as they negotiate further on that front as well. That covers my presentation for now, but happy to take any questions if anyone has some.
All right, any questions, comments? All right, I see no questions or comments. Are there any public comments related to this matter?
No public comments.
Okay, well, thank you, Gus, for your presentation.
Well, next to present is Mark Watts, who's going to share what's going on in Sacramento. Mark?
I would share if I knew what was happening. No, just kidding. Very nice to see you folks after a little bit of a break. I've got several things to report on today. First is the memo that I sent or prepared earlier for this meeting had a pending clause in it, waiting for 2 bills that moved through after that memo came through to you. So I'm going to give you a more up-to-date overview of what's going on in the Capitol. First of all, there are several transportation climate change bills by the Assembly Chair Friedman, AB 6 and 7. AB 6 dealt with RTPs and SESs and climate goals for the state. She was not able to move that bill, so she's held it until next year. We'll hold some stakeholder meetings during the fall. AB 7 dealt with how Caltrans, CTC, and CalSTA, how they go through the process to evaluate grant submittals in a number of different program areas, and how well they tie their evaluation to the CAPTI, the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure. That bill at that point, when I wrote the first memo, was in appropriations waiting to be heard. Since then, and I'll give you a little bit of a deep dive because there are some mixed emotions within the regional transportation agencies over this bill. So AB 7 was released ultimately on with due passage amended. We didn't get to see the amendments. The amendments were later placed into the bill over last weekend. We were able to see them on Monday morning. And they imposed more requirements on how CalSTA, Caltrans, and the CTC would need to adhere to the state's climate goals. It seemed to be acceptable to many observers and most transportation agencies around the state. However, on the 5th, we received a copy of amendments proposed by the Newsom administration to the bill that the author is considering accepting as we wind up and get close to the end of the legislative session. Basically, it would strike most of the bill and insert requirements that actually codify the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure, which if you, well, I think Tim would recall, and others who were on board back in 2019, that the CAPTI was initiated by an executive order of the governor, and it required CalSTA to develop a climate plan that dealt with different levels of adaptivity to planning efforts by the state. However, this bill now codifies that executive action, and it applies the CAPTI objectives to the local partnership program, the TCEP trade corridor program, the congested corridors program, the active transportation program, the ITP, and the SHOP. When the executive order came out, we were led to believe that the CAPTI within the administration would only apply to ITIP and SHOP, but now you see this administration's pushing for language that would broaden the applicability of how you would overlay CAPTI on these grant programs. There is one area of concern about the bill that I would highlight, and that is in earlier this year when the budget was adopted, a side deal that had been requested by the administration that dealt with CEQA and streamlining the CEQA in terms of judicial reviews. It contained a reference to CAPTI and would have codified the use of CAPTI for only those CEQA projects limited to 20 total that applied for use of the judicial review. This bill then goes way beyond that and applies it across the board to every grant program that either the CTC, Caltrans, or CalSTA would review. And so therefore, regional transportation agencies such as CCTA, MPOs as well, such as MTC, when they're submitting their submittals, they would have to show how closely they adhere, where feasible, to the CAPTI requirements. So that is a concern that is a broad reach. The author has not accepted this yet, but I suspect that she will, because this is very similar to a bill last year that she was compelled to drop. And now she has a chance to see the administration approving a bill if she gets this language into it and moves it ahead. The other bill I wanted to highlight That was a change from the day that I submitted the report for your meeting. Was ACA 1 by Aguirre Curry. She had been the local government chair, and in the change in leadership, she's now the assistant pro tem or for the assembly. And she has a little bit more authority and power than she had before. So ACA 1, it really reflects a long-term effort by she and her staff to advance a constitutional amendment to authorize a reduction in the voter approval threshold for 2 areas when it goes to the ballot at the local level. First would be the approval of the bonded indebtedness and the related taxes that support the bonded indebtedness for local infrastructure projects. And the second would be for special taxes that include transaction and use taxes such as Measure C, et cetera, direct sales taxes by a city or county, and parcel taxes by a city or county dedicated to public infrastructure in all cases. And that if this measure passes at the ballot, which is looking like right now, it's intended to go to the 2024 ballot, that the voter threshold by voters for approval would be 55% instead of 2/3 for both the bonded indebtedness and the special taxes. The bill was moved out of appropriations on the 1st, I believe it was the 1st, and is pending on the assembly floor at this point in time. This is the furthest she's got. In fact, I apologize. Actually, I watched last night, and she was able to move the bill off the assembly floor around 6 o'clock, and it's now in the Senate and ready to go next year. She has spent probably 3 legislative sessions trying to push a similar bill, and finally she has one that's now in the second house. Beyond that, I would add that one bill of real note and concern that had been troubling for the authority deals with the autonomous vehicle with gross vehicle weights of over 10,000 pounds. The issue there is, were this bill to pass, it would lessen the interest, I'll put it that way, of major autonomous vehicle, large commercial vehicle developers from using Gomentum Station, because they would look at California as a hostile territory. The administration has let the author know that they do not like the bill. Even though she's continued to move it, she has indicated she will be dropping it in due time. The final 2 bills I would like to report on briefly. SB 532, that's the Senator Wiener bill that dealt with toll increases. You're all well aware that he's put that over for this year, and we'll be taking on some stakeholder conversations on the specifics of the bill and other alternatives to the bill in the coming months during the interim. And finally, AB 557 is a measure that's on the Senate floor, and it continues the authority for local agencies to use teleconferencing during proclaimed states of emergency. And it will be wrapped up sometime in the coming week because it's in its second house. So with that, I bring my presentation to a close, and thank you for the opportunity. I know it's a lot of stuff, so if there are questions there.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Watts? Commissioner Sauce?
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, thanks so much. On ACA 1, so as I understand it, it lowers the voting threshold for trying to seek revenue for, I think you said public infrastructure. Is that right?
That's correct.
And how is that defined? Is that defined broadly or narrow?
It's somewhat broadly. It includes everything from affordable housing to transit and even transportation projects. So it's a broad swath. I'll stop there.
Thank you. And do you know what, if any, position Cal Cities has taken on that bill?
I have not tracked the other folks, I believe I've heard in the testimony that they're in support.
Okay.
And follow up and send Luna a note to that, to correct that if it's wrong.
Okay, thank you. I can follow up myself as well. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Thank you, Commissioner Noack.
Just a quick follow-up, Mark, that bill also included the ability for municipalities or entities to use bonded funds or taxes raised for maintenance, right, of affordable housing, wasn't? Is
Correct.
that piece still in there?
It still is.
Because I know that was, okay,
The one change since the bill passed out of the House that I've seen, which was probably amended over the last 2 days, was the addition under the bonded indebted side to use some of the proceeds for first-time down payment.
oh,
Program.
okay,
So
as well.
they're being very, very expansive, but with limits. I'll put it that way, guardrails.
I know that the question came up, I believe, at MTC at some point because several cities have purchased hotels for low-income housing, but had no ability to use the funds for maintenance. But they were looking to this bill to help them with funds to be able to do that.
So there may be, I'll double check this, there may be a divergence between actual maintenance or rehabilitation efforts. So I'll send Luna a note about that as well.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Fideli.
Yes, thank you. The amendments to AB 7 offered by the governor, that in essence means that Caltrans supports these amendments. Is that correct?
I don't think it's fair to say that they support it
But they can't oppose it.
because they're not allowed to in this administration. They've advanced them on behalf of the administration. So I have to assume that they didn't object when the administration asked them to put them forward.
Right.
I really can't go deeper than that. It's a very, very close-knit administration in terms, and having been a former undersecretary under previous governor, we had a lot of flexibility to talk about what we thought the governor's administration wanted in various bills, including way back then, P40, I helped negotiate. So coming forward to a very, very closed operation, I cannot go any further than what I've said.
But Caltrans wouldn't oppose amendments offered by the governor.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Only at their peril.
Right. That's right. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any more hand. Oh,
Newell.
you got his
Newell.
hand up.
Yeah, Lamar, thank you. Mark, thanks for the report and the updates. Did we weigh in on ACA 13? Because speaking ACA 1, there's a
Right.
relationship, and it's a big one for the league. That went through last night. It's now it's Senator Glazer's committee in the Senate and elections.
We did
and
not.
trying to get it to the floor.
My apologies. We did not because it emerged in its current form and started moving after the last time we met.
Okay, because we might want to look at that. One, that's a big one for the league. And it does relate to us trying to pass a future initiative. And, the real estate community is really strongly against this, but it will protect these voter initiatives that try to raise the threshold to make these pass. That if you want to raise it to 2/3, then it takes 2/3 to pass it. If they want to raise it to 80%, which they're talking about, so it's something that we might want to jump on ASAP. That maybe the two of you guys could get together and talk about this, and maybe get it back to our chair Lamar, and see if we can get something on that. Sam Cagill's got a lot of information. But I think it's important that we might want to put our oar in on this one.
Yeah, and I would just point out that your legislative program may actually cover that kind of protection of revenue sources or future revenue sources. And so there may be the flexibility without having to meet again, but with
Okay,
consultation.
great.
So I'll take a look at that with Luna.
That'd be great. Thank you. That's it.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, are there any public comments for this item?
No public comment, written or verbal.
All righty, well, thank you for your report, Mark and Gus, and we'll move on to the next item, which is
Moraga, STIP.
sorry,
Where's
oh, here it
that?
is. Sorry, I lost my page here. Yes, item 4B, 2024 State Transportation Improvement Program, STIP candidate projects.
I'll take this one, Chair Thorpe. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie Hu, Director of Projects with the Authority. This is an action item related to the 2024 STIP. Every 2 years, the California Transportation Commission, or the CTC, adopts a 5-year STIP that shows how it plans to commit state and federal transportation capital funds for the upcoming 5-year period. The 2024 STIP covers the 5-year period from fiscal year 24-25 through fiscal year 28-29. Since the STIP is updated every 2 years, each STIP cycle adds 2 new years to the prior programming commitments. The 2024 STIP will add programming of funds in fiscal year 28 and fiscal year 29. In anticipation for CTC's release of the 2024 STIP fund estimate that was scheduled to occur in August, the Authority issued the call for projects on April 21st. Applications were due on June 16th. In response, the Authority received 4 applications totaling approximately $40.3 million in funding requests. 9 members of the Technical Coordinating Committee, or the TCC, volunteered to serve on the STIP subcommittee to evaluate the applications. On June 22nd, they met and scored all the applications except for those that were submitted by their own agency. The subcommittee used the scoring criteria that the board approved in April. The Authority staff didn't participate in the scoring, but only facilitated the process. Attachment B is the ranked list of applications. The TCC recommended approval of the subcommittee's ranked list at their meeting in July. The top ranked project is Town of Moraga, St. Mary's Road Multimodal Safety Improvements. The town requested $9.993 million in STIP funds to support the design and construction phases of the project. The project aims to address significant geometric roadway and sight distance deficiencies on St. Mary's Road between Ream Boulevard and Bollinger Canyon Road. The project will also provide pedestrian and bicycle improvements for safe access to the Lafayette Moraga Regional Trail. The final 2024 fund estimate was approved by the CTC on August 16th. There is approximately $43.15 million for new programming for Contra Costa in the 2024 STIP. However, we have to take into account 2 things. First, $31.1 million to pay back for the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, ARA funds, for the Caldecott Tunnel project back in 2009 in order to expedite the expenditure of the ARA funds and to maintain the construction schedule for the tunnel project. MTC programmed $31.1 million in ARA funds to the project to backfill STIP funds that were not available at that time. The Authority needs to pay back this $31.1 million in STIP funds. We will also retain $1.535 million for planning, programming, and monitoring activities for MTC and Authority staff. $1.3 million of that goes to Authority for staff to conduct planning and programming activities, and also for us to participate in regional planning efforts. With these 2 reductions, there's approximately $10.529 million left in the 2024 STIP for new programming for new projects in fiscal year 28-29. This is sufficient to fund the request from Moraga for that top ranked project on St. Mary's Road, which requested $9.993 million. The remaining $536,000 is not sufficient to fund other projects on the ranked list. The total cost with the St. Mary's Road project is $11.3 million. Beyond the requested nearly $10 million in STIP funds, the town was planning to use $1.3 million in Measure J return to source funding towards the project. Since that remaining $536,000 available in 2024 STIP isn't able to fund other projects on the ranked list, and it cannot be used on existing STIP projects, the Authority staff worked with the town on a proposed fund exchange. Staff proposes to program the entire available 2024 STIP amount of $10.529 million to the St. Mary's Road project. In exchange, the town of Moraga will pay back the over-programmed STIP funds of $536,000 with their future return to source funds, which the authority will retain starting in fiscal year 30. The fund exchange does not add burden to the town since they had to go through the STIP process to access the funding with their original STIP request. This exchange of $536,000 will go to augment the authority's fund exchange reserve, or the FER. The FER is a policy that the board approved in 2021, and the FER was established to create a source of flexible funding that can be used by the authority to address project cost increases or to be used as matching funds to leverage external fund sources and grant applications. The usage of the FER funds requires board approval. In summary, staff seeks authorization to program $10.529 million in STIP funding to the town of Moraga for the St. Mary's Road Multimodal Safety Improvements Project. Staff is also seeking authorization for the chair to execute agreement number 661 with the town of Moraga for the exchange of $536,000 in STIP funds with an equal amount of the town's future share of Measure J return to source funds, and to allow the executive director or designee to make any non-substantive changes to the language. That concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions that you guys all may have.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Any comments or questions, Commissioner Sass?
Thank you. Stephanie, thank you for that report. And, as a Moraga council member, I'm absolutely delighted, but I'm just wanted if the chair would allow to just give a little bit of a more context on this project. This intersection in Moraga is critical to public safety in terms of fire evacuation. It is one of the principal routes out of town, and right now it's a bottleneck. And it is also, for a traffic engineering and engineering standpoint, it's a tough one because of the topographic conditions. There's a creek, there's a cliff, there are blind curves. So it sort of is the perfect storm of topographical and engineering considerations. This will allow for better, safer traffic flow. It will allow for better, safer pedestrian access, because right now there's no access from the Bollinger Valley to the Lafayette Moraga Trail unless you sort of take your life in your hands and run across the road. So it's also key to the vitality of St. Mary's College and to access to their facilities. So I just wanted to provide that context to let my fellow committee members know that this intersection is critically important to the town, and that this project is long overdue, and it's very exciting that the committee ranked this, or the technical committee ranked this on top, because it is a very worthy project. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Sass. Commissioner Arnich.
Yeah, I would just add, first of all, it is a great project, but we've all used this funding mechanism where we've traded the funds. Bottom line is, agencies whole, we just codified it 2 years ago to make it, really clear, particularly as we get new members, how we do this. So this fund exchange is a perfect example of how best to do this, to forward a project and advance it, and swap the funds essentially. So I'd be glad, as the outsider, to but part of SWAT, to move this item as presented after any public comments.
All right, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, are there any public comments?
We have not received any public comments, written or verbal.
All right, there's a motion by Commissioner Arnich. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sass. If no further discussion, roll call, please.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Fideli,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes, despite the fact Pleasant Hill was 2 and 3 on that list, but I totally understand, Renata. Yes.
Vice Chair Sass,
Yes.
Chair Thorpe.
I,
The motion passes unanimously.
all right, thank you. Next, we have item 5, correspondence and communications, which I don't believe we have any. Item 6, commissioner and staff comments. Chairs, I have no reports. Yeah, are there any commissioner comments? All right, seeing none, we'll continue to move on. Executive staff comments.
No comments this morning, Chair. Thank you.
All right, item 7, other business. I see none. We will, item 8, closed session. We have a conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation to government code section 5495, 6.1-0.9, and there's one case. Karen,
So,
Will we be,
yes.
tell
So
us to
I
go
will
to
go ahead and
close somewhere.
open. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and open up the breakout room
Okay.
for the 5 APC members as well as Tim and Amra. That's opening now.
yes.
Okay, we're back from closed session. We have to reestablish quorum, right?
Yes.
Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Here.
Commissioner Fideli,
Here.
Commissioner Nowak,
Here?
Vice Chair Sauce,
Here.
Chair Thorpe.
Here.
Okay, all members are present.
All right, we are back from closed session and there's no reportable action. Next item is, adjournment. So we will adjourn at 10:02 a.m. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
That's
Have
great.
a great day, guys.
Tim, Amara, thank you
you.
guys.